Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube segment, I'm going to be dissertating and talking about crime and why it doesn't pay. And the thing about crime in general is that a lot of times I think people find a way to make the ends justify the means. They'll say, well, I'm going to take this and you know what, I'll take this from this vehicle, for example, and I'm going to help facilitate the economy. That really makes a lot of sense. Like that really means that you still did the right thing by thief or by being a thief or robbing somebody. Now, the thing about this is that prisons all across the U.S. and I'm sure in other countries many could be very overpopulated, and it's at a point where I think it's a little bit out of control, and that would probably be a vast understatement. We look at when I'm talking about crimes, what I'm emphasizing are the ones that one can get incarcerated for. I understand that crime encompasses a very large territory and it's a very broad subject, and it could also pertain to what's immoral, things that you wouldn't necessarily get thrown in jail for. Now, when we talk about the crimes, murder is obviously a biggie, and murder comes in all reasons. Sometimes it's vengeance, somebody being vindictive. It could be something in a passion or heat of rage or anger. And it really, people will find ways to justify this as well. And it's absurd and preposterous. And there's really not much excuse for taking a person's life, and there's not much I can really, as far as expounding on that. I understand people get angry, but there's no really reason to really rationalize or justify it. Some people feel that they don't care if they get thrown in jail or whatever, and I'm just going to go ahead and do this. I mean, that's what they do, and I don't really quite understand that. I understand, well, maybe where somebody felt they had some anger in them and they wanted to maybe hurt somebody, but they sometimes take it even further than that. I mean, assault is a crime in itself, and then when it escalates beyond that, I can't really grasp how some people can do this. Some people are just flat out psychotic. Some people just, they have no compunction for what they do. They don't have any remorse, and they find a way to justify it, and that's a lot of times why they will do this. And another thing is, another big crime, of course, is robbery, and this comes in all shapes and sizes. It can be maybe in some form of grand larceny or something where someone's taking from their own business. Could be bank robberies. And people, when they commit this kind of crime and they commit robberies, they're increasing their chance as far as robbing themselves out of their freedom is really essentially all they're doing. Now, some people think, well, I'm going to take this because life has done me a raw deal. I can't make any money. I'm on a low level income. I'm in a impoverished and oppressed situation. I have a lot of kids. I can't take care of them. Well, if the predicament is having a lot of kids, then forgive me for being this blunt, but then you shouldn't have had them to begin with. I mean, that's one thing, right? I mean, the world already has about, I believe, 50% more than what's sustainable and what it's supposed to hold, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I'm not saying not to have kids, but if you don't have the income to support them, then you don't want to have an amount of kids where you're not going to be able to take care of them. If you can only afford to take care of one child, then you only make one child. It's very simplistic. There's nothing really hard to really grasp as far as that goes. I read somewhere there was a question, does something about society maybe forces people to commit crimes? Well, I think ultimately the person within themselves is what forces the person to commit crimes. If people are going to do illegal things just to buck the system, or they feel that life has given them a raw deal. I mean, for me, I for all my life, I've had below average income. I'm borderline impoverished situation right now. I get very little money month to month. My majority of my money comes through Social Security disability. Many of you may know I have irrevocable damage to my arms is because maybe working out too heavy in the past, over strenuous lifting, repetitive lifting, and a lot of it's attributed to that. I have extensive nerve damage, and I've been basically in a situation where I've had to be dependent on disability money because of this, and it really doesn't pay a whole lot, but it's not going to give me the right to buck the system either. So those are some things to consider, and a lot of it is when I was younger, I had an opportunity to go to get some kind of post high school education. I didn't capitalize it on it. My grandmother had offered something, and I just didn't do it. So I guess the point I'm making is that we don't necessarily have to rob somebody or rob other people just because maybe we might have robbed ourselves of an opportunity, maybe to make maybe have a more prodigious income. Now, also there's people that are about embezzlement, extortion in their own company, which is another preposterous thing. Which I saw a movie one time, I forget the name of it was with Dustin Hoffman, and some guy said, and Dustin Hoffman was like the boss or something of the company, and the guy said to him, well, how am I supposed to survive on these wages or whatever? Well, then what should have been done is the person should have maybe done something maybe earlier in life where he should have maybe, as far as maybe a post-high school education, or done something, some kind of specialized training where the person would have more money and more funds. And a lot of times crime is done out of frustration. There was even something on TV I saw the other day where a baseball team, it was at least allegedly, or at least was accused of hacking into some other baseball team's computer and trying to get access to their information for some reason. Was it supposed to give them an upper hand as far as when they play them? I just don't understand all this, and we see crime is committed, and there's so many different types of crime. You have a multitude of them. You have it seems like when I'm watching forensic files, there's all kinds of things like on insurance fraud, people buying life insurance policies, and you find out they buy them right before the person maybe figured prominently in that person's life, right before that person dies. And what's funny is that crime doesn't pay because the forensic testing, for one thing, is so extensive now, and you almost would have to be a rocket scientist to formulate a plan where you're going to get away with it. 99% of the time, if not maybe even a little higher, the person's going to get caught. And it really, and also just the simple fact that as far as the principle that goes, it's just not the right thing to do. I believe when we're all born, we all have some conception of what's right and what's wrong. There was even something on TV I saw one time, I think it was like year 2008, that said we all had our belief in God, and that there was a gene that was implanted in us that gave a person that belief. So if everybody did have that belief, it would be safe to say that we all have a certain conscience, and we're all born with a conception of what is right and what is not right, what's scrupulous and what isn't. And if we're not following what's scrupulous, then we're rejecting something that was actually truly embedded in us. I mean, that's really my opinion, my strong opinion and belief on this. And To me, you have a lot of this crime because I think a lot of it is monetary, because I understand the wages are not exorbitant for a lot of people. There's a lot of people, rich people, affluent ones, that are getting tax breaks, and the low to middleman, so to speak, as far as the wages earned, a lot of times stays in that position indefinitely. Now, I think that really, when this is all, when we look at this, it's all said and done, is that really trying to do something about the system will ultimately catch up with pretty much just about everybody. Some people feel, well, I'll commit this crime, and you know what? I'll keep doing it until I eventually get caught, and I'll just, if they look at it as a calculated risk, and when they wind up going to jail, a lot of them don't feel that way. They probably, I'm sure a lot of people regret what they've done, and they say, well, why did I even do this? After they were so cocky and cocksure before, oh, I'll do this for whatever amount of time, and if I get caught, you know what, I'll just deal with it. I'll deal with the repercussions and ramifications when the time comes. They might think that originally, but I really think they sing a tune of a different accolade when they actually become imprisoned and incarcerated. So the reality, people, is that you might be a lot of you might be in an oppressed or impoverished, penurious situation, but the ends don't justify the means. That doesn't mean you have the right to go into a store and rob it, or rob somebody close to you, or whoever, or commit a crime just in order to make your life better. I'll see so many things like on the Forensic Files and other detective shows where people will commit these heinous crimes and they'll kill somebody, and it seems like there's no remorse or compunction connected with it. They just do it because they're looking out for their own end. They're very engrossed in their own affairs and their own lives, and they're trying to do something that's quote unquote advantageous for themselves, and trying to, if it means somebody has to die, they're like, oh, whatever, killing your spouse, insurance fraud, your significant other. I saw something on TV one time, it was over like $29,000. Somebody killed their significant other, and I was like, because that would be the amount awarded to him or her in case that the person had some uneventful, unanticipated kind of death, such as whatever it might be, murder or what have you. And I mean, I can't even fathom that. Maybe I don't have the criminal mind or mentality. I guess that's why I can't grasp this. But the reality is, people, we often, we reap what we sow, what we reap, etc. We don't, a lot of limitations are self-imposed, and it's not, society can play a role in that, but you have other outlets to get assistance, and it doesn't have to result in committing a crime in order to resolve your own problems. Well, anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube I think I'm on my astrology channel. That'll conclude this YouTube video segment on crime. And until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying, stay well.